and welcome to episode 2 of After the 3 Count. I am one of your hosts yet again, Ashley Biggins, and of course we've got Chase Malone here as well. How are you today, Chase?
I'm doing amazing, Ashley. How are you doing today?
Doing great, especially because we have a guest here today, Mr. James Beard. How are you doing, James?
Doing well. Good to see you guys.
You too. I will never, every time I see you, for some reason I always think about the first time I met you.
Yeah.
It was, what, Texoma Pro or something like that?
Could have been.
I believe it was. Yeah, because you refereed one of my matches.
Okay.
And that's the first time I met you. And I don't know why that's always going to stick out in my head because, I mean, you're James Beard. Come on. And so the fact that, because I was so new, I was so green. I think that was my second, third month wrestling. And so to have you as my ref, I was like, me? What?
Oh, well.
So I was really excited.
I actually enjoy working with younger wrestlers.
Yeah?
Yeah, I really do. That was kind of a sense of pride for me, especially when back in the sportatorium days, the younger guys would get in there and I would, pretty much call the matches.
Yeah.
And knowing that they trust you that much meant a lot, and that was something I always took a lot of pride in.
That's a lot of things people don't know is referee, because when you think professional wrestling, you think, oh, wrestlers. You think about referees as kind of like second or third hand, but in reality, they do so much during the match. Like my first experience of big main stage with referees was at AEW Dark, and that referee, he was calling everything. He even came to me. He's like, okay, tell me the match. What are you doing? I'm like, okay. And so I called it, and he was talking me through it the entire time I was out there. And I'm like, this is different. It's one thing for referees to, especially on the indie circuit, they're new, they're training. And so they're just checking on you, or they're telling you, hey, it's time to go home. And so, but to have that, okay, you're about 2 minutes in now, go to this spot. And I'm like, say less. I don't got to remember anything.
Yeah. It's a different world these days. Of course, you have what you have planned out pretty much now, but in the old days, how that is, nothing was planned really, other than maybe the finish, and so having the ability to feel it and call it like the wrestlers did in those days really gave me an advantage, and it was one of those things that kind of get to where you're kind of I guess in demand when that happens, So that was a good thing to be able to do.
Oh yeah, you got to have high quality talent to put on those high quality matches. Of course, they're going to reach out to James Beard.
Well, people ask me about that all the time, about what your favorite matches are, and on most of the time, my favorite matches were not always the main events. They weren't always the big names. There was pretty early on, I was able to pretty much pick and choose the matches I wanted to work. And I usually would, unless it was something really specific that they wanted me to do, like the main event for some reason, a lot of times I'd like to work the other matches because I just, a lot of times they were better matches, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And just work with the guys that had the skills, that's what I always enjoyed.
Yeah, main event matches aren't always going to be the quote-unquote best ones. I figured those are either your main championship matches or something where a big storyline has to pop off.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Normally, that's where the big story is. It's not going to be, technically the greatest wrestling match in the world, but a lot of times the main event, you're just telling an entire story the entire time. So you're not going to see 700 flips or anything crazy. You're just going to be told a story.
Yeah, and I've never really been one to get all hyped up about the names and stuff.
Yeah,
I've gotten to work with a lot of the big names, but to me, it's about the skills. It's about the guys that really know how to put it together.
Exactly. And I mean, how often we use James, you've refed. I don't even know how many of my matches, but I love when you are my ref because I know I can use you. You are the third man in there. I can call the if I'm not able to call the next spot to him, I can call it to you and know that you're going to relay it exactly how I need it to be relayed.
There's a trick to all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of duties that the referee has if he does the job completely that a lot of people don't understand.
And you really cherish the good ones when you've had a few bad ones.
Oh, man.
Well, that's true. A referee can really make a match bad if he's not you know, but my deal was always, if I can feel like, if I'm in a match, I feel like I can make it a little bit better than it might have been otherwise. You know, not necessarily taking over anything, just make it better, enhance it a little bit somehow, which is really what my job was.
And I mean, the crowd is watching you as well too. So you know,
the referee's the narrator of the match.
Yeah,
you know, he's the one that the fans see if you're in a hold or somewhere. You know, is this having an effect? So my body language, my facial expressions, my vocal counts or whatever it is I'm doing, it all tells that story.
Exactly.
And when you don't have that, then it's all on the wrestlers, and sometimes that doesn't work too well.
And how is the crowd? You know, how is the crowd supposed to get excited when you're 3 feet from what's going on?
Not paying attention,
and just kind of looking at it. You know, he may have him in a hold. Oh yeah, he's got him in a hold.
It really, that's a real pet peeve of mine. It really is.
Or if they don't react to something, it's just like.
Yeah, when I wrote that my book, I had a whole chapter in there about refereeing, at least the way I see it, and that's always kind of been the standard that I've gone by. You know, that if I can't make a match better, then I'm not doing my job.
What's the name of your book?
The Third Man.
Third Man.
Yeah.
Okay, any referees listening to this, you need to go check out The Third Man by James Beard.
It's been surprising how many promoters and trainers have come to me and asked me about, you know, taking that book and using that chapter, you know, to help train guys.
Oh, that's awesome!
So it's been a real blessing.
That's amazing. All right, so as I was telling you earlier, Chase, our first episode was about wrestlers off duty. We just dove a little bit into our past and all that, but today we're going to be talking about the relationships, the personal relationships when it comes to professional wrestling, because it can get messy. Just the impact that professional wrestling has had on mine anyway. So I'm hoping we're going to get some good stories, especially out of you, James.
Well, you know, it does have an effect on your relationships. If you're talking about male, female, or romantic relationships, so that I'm getting all kinds of stuff going on. Romantic relationships, that kind of thing. It definitely has. It has some effect on those. And it's rare in this business to see one that lasts a long time that doesn't have a lot of problems over it for some reason, because of the travel and the obvious issues that come up, you know, with the people always paying attention to you and, you know, that kind of thing. Even the guys that were innocent, you know, got in trouble.
Everybody gets in trouble. No one's safe.
I pretty much stayed single most of the years in my main years that I was in the business, but I've seen a lot of marriages and relationships kind of bite the dust because of. I say because of wrestling, but it's not really because of wrestling. It's because of situations that
wrestling
happened.
Just instigated it or ended it. But,
or as an excuse for it. Yeah,
that too.
But you know, you see a few. I've seen a few marriages that held on and lasted. You know, I think about Bill Irwin and Putz, his wife. They've been together forever, and always had just a great relationship. You know, and I always kind of admired that, but I've seen a lot of them that didn't.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, one time we came in from Japan and went over to where I was sharing a townhouse with him, and we got there a little bit late, and we go upstairs, and his wife's throwing their wedding pictures off the balcony into the rain.
Oh no!
What?
I said, well, but I think it's over.
No. Oh no.
Yeah, it can be bad.
Yeah. And
wrestling is this whole different lifestyle that unless you're in the business, you kind of don't really understand what happens. So with the constant travel, the physical toll, and especially the unpredictable schedules, you said you stayed single most of your career, which honestly, that's probably one of the smartest things you can do. How has it impacted yours, Bam?
Ooh, yeah, it's definitely impacted mine a lot. Are y'all hearing? Is it cutting in and out on y'all's too?
Cutting in and out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Small technical difficulties. It's all right. It happens. But yeah, you know, long story short, you know, I thought I met the love of my life, and She was the greatest thing that I thought, to have ever happened to me. And it's one of those things. I've experienced this a few times, and James, I'm sure you have too. Everybody thinks wrestling is super cool at first. They think that this is a super exciting thing. Oh my, you get to perform in front of live crowds, you get to travel, you get to do all that. And it isn't until they realize, how much that we truly do dedicate to this. This isn't a hobby.
Well, yeah, and on the other side of that, the people that you get involved with sometimes think it's cool too at first.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're a wrestler?
Until it's not.
What?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're a wrestler, you're not texting me until 2, 3 a.m. What are you doing?
Yeah. Or where you been? Why did you get home so late? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And basically, that relationship ended. I was at a crossroads, and she gave me an ultimatum, and it was, if this is what you choose to do, that's fine. Yeah. But I no longer choose to be a part of that path. And so I instantly just sat there and told her, I was like, hey, I've never cared to be the big fish in a little pond. And, if you're going to leave, wrestling's not. It's still going to stay here. So
most breakups aren't that cordial.
Yeah. Well, it definitely got a little nastier than that. But, and there was an instance where she just looked me straight in the eye. And she was like, Chase, do you know how selfish you are? And at first that caught me off guard. Because I would like to think of myself, I'm a pretty selfless guy. I always like to take care of other people, make sure everybody else is taken care of. But in her eyes, the only thing I was focused on was being on the road, bettering myself as a professional wrestler. And unfortunately, that caused our relationship to sit on the back burner.
Well, here's the sad truth, though. And when it comes to relationships or whatever, and I started out in the music business. So I was in the music business before wrestling, so they're both the same thing. Yeah. It's the same deal. In order to be successful and really do well in either one of those businesses, you almost have to be a little bit selfish, personally. Yeah. I mean, I'm not talking about in a bad way where you're,
hurting other people.
No, but you have to think about what you're doing and put that, at the forefront, or you're not going to make it.
Yeah, you have to put certain priorities ahead of everything else, even though it sucks. You're going to miss birthdays, you're going to miss anniversaries, you're going to miss like major life events. But that doesn't change the fact that the show literally still goes on. Like,
well, unfortunately, a lot of us start in these things when we're young and we don't know any better.
True.
So, you get up to that point and you find out, oh, I can't be there for your birthday or for our anniversary or for whatever that is. Yeah. And you realize that and you go, I can't miss this. Yeah. And you tell them that, and then it's going like, uh-oh, here we go. And as you get a little older, you kind of learn how to maintain that a little bit better. But, and or either that or find the rare person that understands and, supports you. Yeah.
And I can understand why a lot of people, get into relationships with others who are in the business. And
which usually causes even more problems.
Which usually is issues too. But, occasionally, it does work out. I mean, Rodney and Jazz, they are amazing.
Well, they're one of those rare couples that and I've known them since before they married. I worked both of their first matches. And they both were single at the time, but they were training together. So they got together that way a little later on. But they're one of those rare couples, and you can tell when you're around them that it's just special. It's a special thing, and they got the 2 girls now, and it's just a great family. But that's not the norm in this business.
No, it's really not.
Unfortunately.
Not at all. And especially, I mean, like I was saying before, she just flat told me I was selfish, and it took me off guard at first until I just sat there and I kind of thought about everything, and I was like, I am. But at this point in my life, I'm allowed to be selfish, and so that was that.
Yeah. It kind of shakes you when you hear that, and you think, I'm not selfish.
Yeah.
But you, like I said, you almost have to be a little bit to succeed in this thing.
Yeah, and the people who have succeeded in this business are selfish. You have to be to a certain extent. You know, that doesn't mean you have to stab everybody in the back. You had to blindside everyone. Exactly. But you have to have your best interests in mind. 24/7 when you're pursuing something. You
have to really be one-minded if you're going to be successful. And like in music or this, either one. And it's so hard to do that with a relationship. And that's proven over and over again. You just look at all of them that fail.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Ash? You have anything?
She's being awfully quiet, isn't she?
That's just because I've got stories.
Oh, I bet you do. Let's hear 'em.
I can't wait to hear this.
Well, I got more questions than anything, but yeah, I have found that my perspective of relationships has changed because of wrestling. And I say that mostly because wrestling is really, really good about filtering out the people near you who don't really support you. Whether it's relationship, like intimate relationships, friendships, family, it's really good about filtering out those people who really aren't there for you. So a lot of the messes that I've been in, I have been married. I have dated wrestlers, and I've dated a non-wrestler, and yeah, it's just been so weird because you can't go into relationships comparing them to previous ones. I've learned that as I got older because it never works out that way. But yeah, when I was married, when I first got into wrestling, and at first I thought my ex-husband was going to be really excited because he liked wrestling. The very first thing he said to me when I came home from a wrestling event, it was World Class Revolution. That's when I kind of fell in love with it. And I came home and I'm like, oh my God, hon, I'm like, I want to do wrestling. He's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, professional wrestling. I want to do it. Like, there's this whole indie circuit. It's insane. You need to check it out. And he's like, you're not going to do that. You don't finish anything. And I'm like,
okay. Yeah, I was about to say stake to the heart.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And so that made me think. I was like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. And then I went to bed and I thought about it and I'm like, is there anything I don't really finish? No, he was just being a dick. so I do the training, and it was really disheartening because after every match, you know, starting out green, you don't know anything, you're learning, and I got thrown in way too soon. And so, you know, one of the last thing you want is to hear criticisms from your spouse when you get home after a very long day. And that would just be the first thing he'd throw in my face, like, you should have done it this way, you should have done it that way. And I'm like, are you even a wrestler? Like, what are you talking about? But I will say, at the end of the day, wrestling gave me the confidence to be myself, like, independently strong, because I was really dependent on him. He was 10 years my senior, and he had, I was in school full time. I didn't have a good paying job. And so I was really dependent on him. But it gave me this confidence to say, I'm not going to put up with this crap anymore. Like, and so, yeah, that ended. And then I dated a non-wrestler after some time passed, and he didn't understand that at all. that ended really quickly. And it doesn't help that wrestlers kind of have, well, mostly men, but women too they get bad reputations, or there are always those rumor mills that spin around about how they just can't, like, keep it in their pants, or they just can't stay faithful to save their life. And it sucks because it's true. There are so many wrestlers that make that bad name for wrestlers, and it makes people who aren't like that, it makes it really difficult.
Yeah, most of those things that people think are true have a reason to think. Yeah,
there's a reason
there. Yeah, and then you're right. It's one of those businesses that puts you in a situation where it's real easy to be in compromise yourself. You know, it's just tough. You know, because you're around all that all the time. And you know, I was married too, and when I was in the music business, and it ended, and I'll take most of the blame for that. I've got 2 kids. I love them. I got a great relationship with everybody now, which is great.
That's good.
But that's one of the reasons why when I really got into the wrestling side of things, I really kind of make a conscious decision. I'm not getting in a relationship for as long as I'm really on the road like I was, because I was going overseas all the time and that kind of thing too, which is even worse. But I actually made that decision. I'm not getting involved with anybody, and I didn't. You know, it just I think it served me well. I didn't have that distraction.
And you could truly focus on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to worry about.
And that's selfish.
Yeah, and it is.
It's selfish, but
look where it got you.
I mean, I think we really need to think about what the word selfish means in this industry. Is it really selfish when you're just trying to take care of your own career?
And I agree with you. And then also, like, I don't feel as selfish should have such a negative meaning all the time. Yeah, I just don't. We got people out here hollering at us.
Watching this, listen to us talk about being selfish.
But you know, I don't think selfish necessarily always has to have that negative meaning to it. You know,
No.
You're supposed to be selfish to an extent in life. Period.
Yeah, that's anybody, not just wrestlers.
Yeah, you have to take care of yourself, and you have to have your best interests in mind. You can't jeopardize your own well-being in order to prioritize someone else above you. But
Yeah, I think you can do that and be a good person too.
Exactly.
You know, that's one of the things. You know, I don't think I've ever hurt anybody that I know of in the wrestling business, and I feel like I've got a pretty good reputation in it, and it's because I tried to make sure that part of it didn't filter over into other relationships.
Exactly.
You know, I still took care of myself. In fact, there's probably times when I probably could have taken more care of myself and taken advantage of certain situations, and I didn't because I didn't want to hurt somebody.
Exactly.
You know?
Right. And it's like you just said, a trigger word in my head, reputation. Reputation's everything.
Everything.
In this industry. Not even just in this industry, in life, period. You know, that whole, you only have one chance to make a first impression, but I feel like that's 10 times harder with wrestling. Like it's way more scrutinizing. It's way more like dialed in. Like they watch your every move. And I feel like a lot of it is because people, you can say you don't, but people love drama.
Yeah.
People love the rumor mill, and so people will just like watch and pay attention and see what you're doing, and then as soon as they hear something, they're like, "Oh my gosh, they did that! What?" And then and go off elsewhere. So having a reputation is super, super important in this industry, and I had a bad experience with that as well when I first started out, and I didn't even know how bad it was until like a year later when someone asked me about it, and I'm like, how do you know that? Have I told you the Bam? Jeez.
You're making us curious now.
Yeah.
Have I told you the story about Chavo?
No.
Okay. So starting out, you know, you pay your dues. You don't wrestle right away. You pick up people from the airport. You cart their bags. You help them out at shows, tear up, tear down, all that stuff. I was going to Wichita for a show that Chavo Guerrero Jr. was going to be on. And at the time, I had my best friend Destiny with me because I had just had LASIK eye surgery, and so I couldn't really drive well at night. And she loves wrestling too. And she's my number one biggest fan. She's my biggest supporter. So she's like, of course I'm going to go with you and like watch this magic. And so she went with me, and we go to the show. She's actually helping. She's helping with setup. And then the promoter comes up to me, Jerry, and he says, hey, I need you to go pick up Chavo from the airport. And listen, I do love wrestling. I really do. But at the time when he said that, I was like, who? Because he just said Chavo. He didn't say anything else. And my mind was like trying to get this ring set up. And then I just said, well, without even thinking, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go. So I go over to Destiny, and I'm like, all right, let's go pick up Chavo from the airport. And she's like, what? Chavo Guerrero Jr.? And I'm like, oh, duh.
Then it resonates with you.
He's on the card, duh.
Yeah.
And so we go pick him up, whatever, take him to his hotel. But because I'm just going to say this is why, but because we were so chill, and because we didn't like bombard him with a bunch of questions. I mean, it's freaking Chavo Guerrero Jr. But she's a huge fan, but she was like really cool about everything. And I guess just because we were so cool with everything, we didn't bombard him. He actually like ended up liking us. And so at the end of the night, my eyeballs were literally throbbing. She was tired. And Jerry's like, are y'all going to come out to here and come with us at the end of the show? And I'm like, look, I don't know. I'm really tired. I'm going to go to the hotel, because me and Destiny were staying somewhere else. No one else was. And next thing you know, Chavo texts us when we're walking through Walmart trying to get dinner, and Chavo texts us, and he's like, hey, what are y'all doing? I'm like, oh, we're just going to get dinner. Do you need us to take you to the bar where they're going? He's like, no, I'm not going to go out. I'm really tired. I'm like, yeah, we are too. And he's like, well, do you want to come over and hang out? And I'm like, and so I asked Destiny, I'm like, hey, do you want to do this? And before I could finish the sentence, she's like, yes, I do. And so we go to his hotel, and I told the promoter this. I immediately texted him, and I was like, hey, he doesn't want to go out. I don't want to go out, but we're going to hang out. We're just going to hang out at the hotel. And he's like, okay. And so we get to the hotel, and unbeknownst to me, apparently Jerry went there before we even got there. I guess he thought he was going to like intersect us or something, but I guess we showed up just as he left. But yeah, we hung out in his room. He had like this little suite and all this stuff, so it was really spacious. And we hung out there, and we were just talking about his liquor business. At the time, he just started doing WOW, training the girls for that. And like, honestly, I was literally just sitting there listening because Destiny was just like talking to him, and she was having the time of her life. And I'm like, I'm gonna get
stories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna get best friend of the year for this. Like, I just know. And yeah, we're just talking, having a good time. Like, a few hours pass, and then we leave. That's it.
Oh, I'm ready for this one. I think I know where it's going.
The very next weekend was another show, and I'm setting up. Chavo comes in, and he goes, Ashley, right across the room from everybody. And I'm just like, oh, hey, what's up, man? And so he comes over right to me. I give him a hug. I go back to what I'm doing. That's when the rumor mill started.
Oh, wow.
You immediately, there were people that were watching other wrestlers, and they're just like, they immediately were like whispering, like, what, why did he go to her? Da, da, da. Well, apparently someone started a rumor saying that I slept with him that night. And I'm thinking, no one else knew. It was just me and Destiny. No one else knew that we were going to his room except Jerry. So why is Jerry talking about this to other people? And why are they going off spreading the rumor? And so I was just like, I'm over this. But I didn't know that rumor had started until months later when a wrestler messaged me, and he's like, I need to know the truth. And I'm like, what? And he's like, did you sleep with Chavo? And I'm like, the hell are you talking about? He's like, this day, da da da. And I'm like, okay, this is hilarious. And my response is, if I had slept with him, I feel like I would have been somewhere else other than the indie circuit right now.
Well, you know, I can tell you this. I've hung out with Chavo, and I never had any kind of bad reputation
No,
about
not
it.
at all. He is.
Nobody started a rumor about
Nobody
it.
started
Man.
none.
You know, see, that's
James
where
and
it's
Chavo
terrible.
spending a lot of time together.
I don't get
And that's where it's terrible, because y'all can have the time of your life with each other, but
Yeah.
as soon as someone of the opposite
exactly
sex come
right.
in,
Yeah.
it's totally different story. And next thing you know, months after that, Dante Smiley even said, I like told the locker room at this point this story, and they're like, yeah, I remember hearing that. And I'm like, what do you mean?
You were in the middle and didn't know it.
No, I didn't. And so, like, I still don't know who started that rumor to this day, but I just can't help but laugh about it, because I'm not losing any sleep. One, Chavo knows the truth. I know the truth. Destiny knows the truth. Like, I don't care.
Yeah. It's you just never know. And then the business. I think that old saying about tell a wrestler, and you tell the world. I mean, it just goes and goes and goes, and that's unfortunately a true saying. You know, I hear all kinds of stuff, and probably about 10% of it's true. You know,
And that's so unfortunate, because that another question comes to mind with that. Have either of you found it difficult to form relationships in wrestling, like friendships or just anything like that?
Not with other guys.
Yeah.
With the ladies, I would say I have a lot of friends, but not. You know, it's kind of, and I mean, you know, I've known you a long time, but we don't talk outside of wrestling,
Right.
Which is not true with the guys like Bam and Tim Storm. Everybody knows Tim and I are like that, you know, and I can, John Layfield and you know, other guys that I can name, you know, they're really close to, and almost like brothers, you know, really like family. And there's not very many women that I could say that about. And part of that, I think, is because you're so cautious of that. You know, I can say that about Jazz, but, you know, she and I'm not that way with Rodney. And Jazz is like family to me. But I can't say that about too many other women. I mean, a lot of them I think of as friends and alike. You know,
But outside of wrestling, y'all aren't checking in.
It would be, and I guess the only reason for that is that maybe I've subconsciously avoided that, you know, somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you and them have, so that way rumors don't start.
It could be both ways, yeah. Or maybe they just didn't like me. I don't know. One or the other. Well, but yeah, I think it's just kind of one of those things where you're just double cautious about it.
Yeah.
Maybe, and it's kind of sad that you have to do that.
Exactly. And I've always thought of it in a way of like, you know, I think of it in three pieces. Like, you know, Chase Malone is on one side, Bam Bam Malone is on the right, and then somewhere in the middle, there's an even ground. And I think that way, you know, with even friendships, you know, there are very selective people that I have met through wrestling and that I would consider true, real life friends. You know, they're and it's nothing against them, but, you know, just like you touched on, when I see them, we talk about wrestling, and I only see them at wrestling.
Right.
They're wrestling wrestling friends. And there's a few, you know, that bleed over. James, you know, Ashley, yourself. I consider APOC my wrestling dad. You know, I've told him that for forever. He's my wrestling dad. We jam 80s music going up and down the road. You know, Tim Storm. Like, there's a few that have crossed over from being a wrestling friend into being a true, you know, real friend. But but there's not many. There really isn't. And I don't necessarily. There's not like a specific reason why I've always done it that way. I've always seen myself as, you know, Chase and Bam Bam as two separate things. You know, business and who I truly am.
I guess that's probably true. You know, I've got a lot of good friends in wrestling, a lot of them.
Yep.
And got a lot of good relationships in wrestling, but there's 4 or 5 that I could name that are just, you know, really close.
Yeah.
You know, I could call about anything.
Yeah.
Wrestling, regardless.
Exactly. Yeah. If I needed something, you know, there's a short list of people that, you know, they're true friends. And I even look at, you know, how many wrestlers have I hung out with outside of wrestling? And it's not very many.
Right.
You know, like going to a concert or going out together.
But there's also that thing that really a true friend. I saw this the other day. I think I sent that to Tim one time. It was some kind of deal on Facebook or something that said, you know, a true friend is somebody that you don't have to see every day. You don't have to talk to every day. You know, but when you do,
you just pick right back up.
Right back where you were.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a great situation to have with someone. You know, I think about John Layfield. You know, when he was really busy. He worked for WWE for 25, 6, maybe 30 years. I don't remember now. And there were a lot of times we didn't see each other for months. You know, we might text each other sometime or something like that. But, you know, he retires, and now we're like talking every day. Yeah. You know, and it's back to the way it was when we were riding the roads together.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of relationships that are special. Tim Storm, same way, you know. And I know I can call and count on them if I need them. And I do the same thing with Bam. If I needed something, I'd call him. He'd be there.
That's the difficult part, is finding those who you can count on. And I'm going to say the word from earlier, because this is a selfish industry. Everything is a competition. And so at the end of the day, with a lot of these people, and thankfully I haven't had this experience per se, because I'm one of those people, I do enjoy making friends. It makes it so much easier when you travel to shows and stuff. It's less stressful. And so I've got one I consider my one of my best friends now, and the other one I consider a really good friend. My best friend is Jeremy Hudgens. He goes by Damien Daystar, and he's here. He's local. And then I have a really good friend, Olivia Vegas, who lives out in Vegas now. And so I find the difference with those two is I could call them at any time if I just needed to talk, and they'll actually answer. Whereas I feel like if there were anyone else, that would be very difficult, because I don't want to say that wrestlers tend to put up a front just to be friendly, but you can tell You can tell when someone is just kind of pretending you're your friend to like ride your coattails.
If they think you can get them booked somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And I don't like, I mean, I'm sure no one does. Like, no one likes being used like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was in a unique situation pretty early on. I got the deal in Japan, and after I was over there for just a pretty short time, I ended up in a situation where I was actually booking guys, from here over there. And I had a whole lot of friends calling in, and end up in a booking situation in Dallas, and you get a lot of people calling you. A lot of friends calling, but that's a whole different thing. But I made my mind up early on that I'm, if I can help guys get to another level, I'm going to do what I can to help them. And then I'm not going to feel bad about it when they go there and I never see them again. Yeah. And I've been pretty lucky with that.
That's good.
I was a few guys that have done, John for one, Tim for one, and I don't take any credit for it at all. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that whatever I could do to get them to that opportunity to where they make that next step and go wherever they go, I'm not going to be the guy that tries to hang on to that.
But you also knew them as a human being before then too, as well.
Yeah,
you knew they were deserving of these opportunities. It wasn't just somebody in your Facebook messages, "Hey brother, how'd you get on Raw
It's
tonight?"
not the brother.
You make one WWE extra appearance and watch your
brother,
messages.
who's the booker for
Hey,
that?
how'd you get that? How'd you get
it's
that?
like you're booking it now.
Yeah, it's like, dude, no.
And that's another thing. Like, what makes you think an extra has any pull? Any pull? Like, that's with anything. Like,
I can tell you what happens. If you were to go up and say something to somebody who had the pull, they just go, "Oh, okay, thanks. I'll keep that in mind."
Like, they're not going to care.
I'll keep that in mind. When you hear that, just walk off.
Yeah, that's a solid no.
Like, just forget about it. Just forget about it.
Yep.
And it's just because this is a really, really hard industry to break into. I get it, but have some morals, man. Like, lace up your own boots. Come on.
I've found, though, that if you do legitimately help people and try to get them in better positions, sooner or later that comes back to you.
Yeah.
And the accolades and all that kind of stuff, it may come a little late, like myself. It was, I thought I was retired like in 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and then all of a sudden I start getting some honors and that kind of thing, and you just try to do the right things and it'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, what goes around comes around, right? Karma is a very real thing.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
If you can lend that hand, help that person out, and who knows, maybe that gives them the opportunity to take that next step and they can reach right back and pull you up with them.
Yeah, even if they don't, the people in the industry know when you help somebody.
Yep.
They know if you offer something that's valuable, whether it's that or the work in the ring or whatever, or something behind the scenes or whatever. And eventually, even if the world doesn't know it, the people in the business do.
Yeah.
And that I always kind of felt like the greatest honor I ever had is when I started being considered one of the boys. And that, and when that happens, it's kind of like you're a made man.
Right. Like, you're in now. You got it.
Yeah. And that's just about being in the business.
Yeah, just accept it as a whole. You have everybody. Everybody likes you. You're in.
Yeah, it changes your relationships with everybody. You talk about relationships. It changes everything. Because you're not looked at as that rookie or that greenhorn or whatever anymore.
Right. You're a vet at that point.
You're made. Yeah. And that's a good feeling. Really good feeling.
Speaking of vets, one thing that gets on my nerves so much is when I hear people talk about how they're a vet because they've been in a certain amount of years. And so they think they know better, but they never left their home state. Like, I understand how you can say you're a veteran in this business if you've been in a certain amount of year, but I don't really necessarily look at it as how long you've been in. I look at it as by the lessons you have taught people and the experiences you have had. Like, I really don't think years, if anything, years shows your dedication. Yeah. But as far as a veteran status, I think you earn that after you have very, very obviously put all that hard work in, whether it be for 2 years or 20 years. I don't think it matters on the timeline as long as what the quality amount that you have put in.
And unfortunately, and not of any fault of anybody's that's in the business now at that level, but working, most indie wrestlers probably work once or twice a week at the most. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I hear guys talking about, I've been in the business for 20 years. And I said, well, how many matches does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, and it's not a whole lot. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's, I'm not blaming you. I'm not criticizing anybody for that. I'm just saying that that's a whole different thing, a different perspective than it was when you worked 5, 6, 7, 8 matches a week.
Yeah.
You know, and that changes the whole experience data. You know, and it's kind of funny to me when I hear guys talking about being in the business 20 years, and I'm thinking, yeah, but you've only worked twice a month for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. That's why I don't like it when people ask me, how long have you been in the business? And I'm like, it doesn't matter because, I've been in it for coming up on 5 years now, but I've had less than like 50 matches because I keep getting hurt. I have no earthly idea how many matches I've worked. Have no idea.
Yeah.
I couldn't even count them, but I still learn things now.
Oh yeah.
You know, so I don't think that's something where you become exempt to it. And you can say that about everybody. I mean, I don't care who you are at the highest levels.
Yeah.
You know, if you quit learning, you probably are dead.
Yeah.
If you quit learning and if you quit training.
Yeah.
Because training never stops.
Yeah.
And you never quit learning. So if you're not learning anything, you're obviously just completely disinterested.
I mean, you just got a big ego.
Yeah, and maybe that too.
I know everything.
I know those too.
Oh man.
I know some of those.
Oh man.
Yeah. You were talking about people that at the higher levels are successful, you know, being nice guys. Some of them are jerks.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. But I do enjoy that I hear that there are more nice guys than there are jerks. I do enjoy that fact, mostly just because there are way too many jerks on the indie circuit.
What I find interesting, too, is I see a lot of the guys that I've known that became successful and then retire. And when they're working, you can see that they're concentrating, being that selfish, you know, concentrating on themselves, which is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But after they retire, then it seems like they kind of open up a whole new avenue for them to talk about all of it.
Yeah.
You know, and they can be a lot more, I guess, open about how their experiences.
Yeah, and just a lot more personable. You kind of let that guard down.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that with like Mark Calloway, Undertaker. You know, he's recorded a whole bunch of shoot interviews.
Yeah.
You know, and when he was in the business, if you were around him, if you didn't know him, you would think, oh, this guy's not very friendly.
Yeah.
You know, because he was within himself. You know,
and that is what he wanted you to believe.
And he stayed and he was one of the unique guys that stayed in character all the time. You know,
love it.
You know, but now he's opened up and you see a whole different side of him. You know, and I think that's really cool.
I do too.
You know?
Yeah. And I mean, that would have ruined the magic of the Undertaker. Yeah. If that would have come out any sooner than it did.
Shawn Michaels, another guy.
Yeah.
You know, he was legitimately pretty arrogant. You know, at one time. You know, and a lot hard to deal with some people. I never had that problem with him. It was always great when I was around him. But you know, obviously he got to that point to where he was thinking about Shawn. You know, and now that he's out of the active business, not in the ring anymore. He's a whole different guy.
Yeah. And I imagine you see the business, you just see wrestling as a whole from a total different perspective. It's no longer, what can I do? How do I get better? Yeah. It's how do we get better? Yeah. And, like he's in a position where I want to say is he the head of NXT training?
I think so. I don't keep up with
something.
I believe so. He's involved in it. Yeah.
Yeah. But so, Shawn Michaels is no longer worried about the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
No.
He is worried about NXT as a whole, WWE as a whole.
And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the big stars that I've known, the guys that were real successful like Shawn, weren't able to see the whole picture like that.
No.
You have to give him a lot of credit for being able to step back and look and see what it takes to take care of the business and the whole crew instead of just me, one person. So that's a it's a unique quality to have.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame when you have to look at everything that just goes into it, producing a show, whether it's an XT level or an independent or even TSW, so much.
Yeah, I've seen what James has had to do.
And then we're doing it tomorrow probably. That's just talking about it earlier. If you have a taping, especially a taping, just a regular house show is the same way too. Though, but really taping especially. If you have a taping and don't have a bunch of changes in it or some changes in it, it would be very rare.
Yeah.
And that's true on every level of this business.
Yeah.
But we had that hurricane going on, and I know there's going to be travel issues, and so we're going to have changes. Yeah. It's just part of it, But that's the way it is. But and that's one of those things you talk about personal issues and personal relationships. You have to maintain a certain level. With your emotions and all of that, and your relationships with people, because things just don't always happen the way you want them to.
Yeah.
No. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so I think keeping a level head and not getting excited and not getting upset, is just that's part of the thing that kind of helps you have relationships with people in this business, and they respect that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it is absolutely nobody's fault that our Florida crew can't make it.
Yeah.
What's the point in even being upset about it at that point?
Right.
And trust me, I've heard every excuse in this business. And some of them were really kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I want to hear some of these excuses.
Some of them are legit.
Can you think of a bad one?
Huh?
Can you think of a bad one?
Oh, I mean. Well, yeah, I can think of a couple of them that were pretty bad, but that were just made up. It was like the clock didn't go off, or I didn't get there in time, or had a flat tire, 4 flat tires, all that kind of stuff. You hear all those kind of excuses.
Man, those are my worst nightmares, though. Like, I've had literal nightmares that I would be on my way to a show, gonna get there on time, just a little early, and then boom, a tire popped. Or I missed my alarm, or I missed my flight. And like, I have nightmares about that. And I can't say I have never, well, that's a lie. The only time I've ever had to cancel on a booking last minute was because of an injury.
Yeah.
Like, and because you know how many times I have heard, oh, my grandma died. Like, that's the 4th time in 3 months that your grandma's died, my guy.
Yeah.
Like, just be responsible, because this is, at the end of the day, this is a business. People have a tendency to take it a little personally because you put so much into it. You put so much of your time, your effort, your emotions. You put a lot into it. If you're one of those people who do. The people who are really great do. And it's hard to balance that and separate it from personal and business.
There's a huge responsibility to be there and to be there on time. That's something that I've always taken a lot of pride in. And that's another one of those relationship issues too. We have a relationship with a promoter. And if you've got good relationships with a promoter, they'll book you again.
Yep.
And if you don't, then they probably won't.
Rick from Squared Circle Pro.
Yeah.
He will take care of you. Randy from here, he will take care of you if you are honest with him.
Yeah. And
you give him a reason to want you to come back.
Yeah. It's a relationship business. You're talking about this being your theme here. That's all this is. All this business is all about relationships.
So what is the one thing about a wrestler? Well, it doesn't have to be a one thing or just like a concept. What is a concept that a wrestler has that stands out to you? Like, is it like how you're saying with the Undertaker, how they protect their gimmick until the very dying breath? What is it that stands out for wrestlers to you?
Oh gosh, I think the main thing for me is number one, being proficient in the ring. I mean, if they can do the things they need to do, and they don't have to be great wrestlers,
right?
But they have to be able to convey whatever they're trying to convey in the ring. Whether it's a gimmick or whether it's a skill set or whatever it is. If they can do that, then number one, that's the first thing I look at. You know, and then number two, it's personality and availability. You know, if they're trustworthy. I've known a lot of guys with a lot of talent that weren't trustworthy.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, I might deal with them one time, but I won't deal with them again.
I feel like a lot of that has to be with ego, because like they know they're good, and it's like that's not enough.
I think some of it is, and sometimes it's just being stupid.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
You know, they just I don't know. It's just irresponsible, immature, whatever it is.
I would say definitely maturity has a lot to do with it, because a lot of these guys are young.
Yeah. Well, that's true, but I know a lot of older guys.
I was just about to say, I've met a lot of guys that.
There were certain guys in this business that you just knew. I hear, oh, we got this guy booked, and I'm going like, okay, well, I hope he shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and sure enough,
It's terrible when you get that kind of reputation.
Yeah,
like,
but there's certain people that's that way. You know, and that took me to a place with certain people. I say guys, you know, girls, guys, either one, it doesn't matter. If you can't depend on them, then they're not good for you. I mean, there's no use for them. Yeah. You know, especially as a booker, as someone who develops storylines.
You need that dedication.
If I can't depend on you being there,
right,
and carrying through with it, then I don't want to have anything to do with you. I'll find somebody else, and I'll even have to change the story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that happens so many times in wrestling promotions. You know, it happened with the promotion before this one that we worked in. You start getting things going the way you want to go, and then all these other people want to be involved, and they come in, and you go, I know this guy's not going to be here when I need him. Yeah. Because as soon as somebody else offers him something else, he's gone. Yeah. You know, and that's sure enough that happens. You know, but you get forced into using them. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're the booker and not booking some of the talent, and, which, you know, it's just the way it is. Yeah. You know, and dependability is a big thing for me.
And at the end of the day, man, like you don't have to be here. You don't. Yeah. And so if you don't want to do this, then don't do it. Yeah. You know, APOC was the one that, you know, he told me, you know, he has his 3 rules of wrestling. And one of his rules are, if you are not willing to take this to the furthest of your own capabilities, then wrestling is not for you. And that doesn't mean, you know, not everybody can be a WWE superstar. Not everybody can be a TSW superstar.
Not everybody needs to be.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But pursue it to the highest degree that you are capable of. Yeah. Now, you know, if James, if you were to come to me and you were to lay out, you know, what we were going to do storyline wise, and oh, I love that. That's awesome. Let's do it. Well, if I no show, guess what? There's someone right there behind me who is going to come right in, and there's their opportunity, and I'm out the door, and I'm done. And
at the same time, especially at this level of things, if we've got things laid out that way, and you come to me and you say, I've got this opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, what do you think? And I say, man, this is something you need to take. Yeah. And I'll figure out a way to work us out of this.
Yes, good promoters, good bookers will say that.
Exactly.
They will say, no, go get that.
Yeah, and most of the time you can find a way that, and you know, to work something in and make it mean something. Yeah. You know, and the responsible people will do that. Yeah. You know, and those are the people you respect. You know. Because sooner or later, you're going to come back around. Exactly. You're going to come back around. You're going to be going like, hey, can you book me? And I'm going to go,
man, I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. And I mean, a prime example of that is Josh Newell. You know, the night that we had NWA here in Forney, I was supposed to be in West Monroe, Louisiana, defending the title. You know, I'm his champ. And once that NWA date got dropped, I just gave Josh a call. Yeah. And I said, hey, if you tell me no, I will be in Louisiana. Yeah. But this is something that I really want to do.
And on that same night, I was booked. Yeah. Yeah. and he told me, he said, look, and they asked me to be here. And I told him, I said, no, I'm not that important here. If it was a big deal for me to be here, I would have said, okay, well, I appreciate it and I'll do it. But I said, no, I'm booked with you. I'm going to be here. Yeah. But that was why. Yeah. You know, if I'd had the opportunity you had, and that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and Josh understands too.
Not about money.
that was a win-win situation for everybody. You know, I got to be on national television. I got to wrestle for the NWA, and Josh's, you know, Bayou Independent Wrestling Southern Heavyweight Champion was on NWA
As
television.
seen on NWA.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just a win-win, and you know, I'm sure it didn't make him happy when I gave him that call and let him know, but he understood that, you know, again, you have to be selfish to an extent. You have to be selfish. You have to look after yourself. But I feel like I went about that the right way.
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Absolutely did. That's why it baffles me when I hear about so many people who don't take that responsibility to do the right thing. Like, I don't know if it's just because you really don't care, but like, I personally could never do something like that because I would not be able to sleep that night. Like, if I ever impeded a storyline, even if it was out of my control, I would feel so bad. Like, whenever I got injured at Squared Circle Pro, we were supposed to continue a storyline into the next day, and I said, you know what, Rick? And he's like, no, don't, please don't, you're hurt. And I'm like, you know what? No, I can do this safely. I'm going to finish this story for us. Yeah. And
may not be the same story, but
we're going to get
it ended the way he needed it to. Yeah. And honestly, at the end of the day, that's all that mattered. And well, what mattered to him is he wanted me to be safe because he felt so bad. And it's like, Rick, this is absolutely not your fault. I'm making the decision to help you finish this story so that when I come back, we don't lose a beat. And if there were any, I remember if there were any incidences where I couldn't finish a story because of something like that, I always offered a solution. And then the booker would be like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a little thing like, oh, you're going over tonight. And I'd be like, that doesn't really make sense. What if she goes over this night? It leads to this feud, da, 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 da. And then he's like, you know what? Yeah, that's a good idea. Because guess what? I'm not going to be able to wrestle for you for the next show.
Yeah, well, you know, as someone who puts those things together, it's rare sometimes. It's kind of a pleasant surprise when I hear a guy or a girl, whichever, come in and say, you know, I think it'd be better if I didn't.
Yeah, they need to go over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm thinking, oh, thank God.
You're like, man, I was just sitting here thinking, how am I going to talk you into this?
Yeah.
Is it really that bad for you? Like, have you really
Sometimes,
had to deal with that?
Depending on the person.
Okay.
Because you know certain people just don't take it very well.
Yeah.
And that's been my job forever. When even back in the Sportatorium days, the booker would come up with an idea, whoever it was, and they'd come up with this idea, and they know that the guy didn't want to do it, and you know who would have to go tell them about it, and I would have to go find a way to explain it to them, you know, that, you know, this is what they want, you know, and this is why, and there were times when I disagreed with the booker, you know, and I would go to him and I'd go, look, if I go back to him and say, maybe we can do it this way, how would you feel about that? And it worked out. So I could negotiate it a little bit. And you know, but yeah, there's certain people that you know, when you go to something that's not initially going to be positive, that they're going to, they're going to balk at it. You know, I remember when I was booking at the Sportatorium at one time, and Iceman had been going around, he hadn't been working there for a while, but he'd been going around the circuit working against Action Jackson. I mean, they were working everywhere. Same, you know, here or there. I mean, and Ice was working as a heel, you know, and he was doing well with it, you know, and probably booked every week somewhere, doing that. And the promoters wanted to bring him back to the Sportatorium. And my idea was, you know, okay, yeah, I'd love to, because I love Ice, you know, good guy. Great wrestler, and had a good experience with him. I've known him a long time, and I thought, I want to bring him in, but I don't want to bring him in doing that same crap.
Yeah.
You know, and they said, well, he's not going to come. He's already said if he comes in, he's going to be ill. He won't do it any other way. I said, let me talk to him. So I told him to come in. He came in and sat down, and I told Ice what my idea was. And the whole scenario was, you know, AJ was teaming with, remember Al Jackson? Yeah. He and Al were teaming together.
Okay.
And against the Kongs.
Okay.
Which are two, you remember, you know, Dwayne and Scott, you know, that's 1,000 pounds in the ring, you know. And they were just, you know, so my idea was that Al gets hurt in the match, and Ice comes in the side door of the Sportatorium. and out of nowhere, no advertisement, no anything. And of course, they're just beating the crap out of AJ. You know, and they called him to the ring, and he comes in with his Rudy Poot stick and all this stuff, and everybody's going like, oh God, you know, he's going to just kill AJ. And when he got up to him, he just turned around and started wailing away on the Kong.
Ooh.
So he just went boom.
I was saying, I imagine the place went ballistic.
That's the scenario I pitched to Ice, you know, and he was going like, you know, he said, I told him I wasn't coming in unless I was a heel, but I trust you. You know, we had a good relationship. He said, I trust you, so let's see how it goes. And it popped. Yeah. You know, obviously. And those are the kinds of things, you know, that you can get by if you just have a good idea. Yeah. You know, and then show it to them and tell them, you know, that you know, and show them the reasoning behind it. Yeah. You know, so that's something I've been pretty lucky with for the most part.
And I feel like that's another hard thing, like, you know, just with people in general, but especially in wrestling, like, understanding that your idea is not always the greatest idea.
Sure. Yeah.
And, you know, being able to hear someone else where they're coming from, you know, and be like, okay, yeah, that was a better idea than I had, or I don't know about it, but let's see how it goes. And then it ends up playing out.
That's true as a booker too.
Yeah.
You know, and that another one of those relationship things. You know, we have a relationship with the talent. I learned what I learned watching and listening and talking to guys like Gary Hart and Johnny Valentine and Red Bastine and Ack and go on and on and on. Yeah. The guys that understood the business and knew how to put things together. And Bill Watts the same way. They listened to everybody, took those ideas, and then they would take those ideas and maybe tweak them a little bit. And that's what they used. You know, Gary Hart always told me, he said, yeah, come, give me your ideas, give me, you know, what you got. He said, if it works, I'm the booker and I'll get credit for it. You know, you know, which is fine. Perfect. You know, and there were a lot of cases in different situations where I had my idea, you know, again, with Eddie Gilbert, same way. You know, I'd give them the idea and they would take it and tweak it a little bit. And if it went over, you know,
great.
I didn't care if they got credit for it or not. It was just, it was cool because they knew, the wrestlers knew.
Exactly.
You know, and that's all that mattered to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously you're the type of person who really loves creating these storylines and seeing them come to life.
That's my...
And so you're in a fantastic place here at TSW because you get to just go crazy. Like you get to have the time of your life doing the thing you love most.
Yeah. And working with people that I love, really, honestly. It's just Jazz and I work together with the booking and that kind of thing. She actually books most of the talent. Yeah. And we put together matches together, come up with the ideas and that kind of thing. And she trusts me and I trust her. And you know, most of the talent I know pretty well by now, you know, and I think they trust me. And, you know, we all have a good relationship, and that's a great situation. You're right. Yeah.
So one thing about this little podcast we have is that we're honest with each other. Is there a specific type of gimmick that you struggle with the most to try and book for storylines?
Yeah. And not, I don't know about struggling to book it, but to come up with things that may be out there a little bit, but they still have to make some kind of sense to where you're not insulting the intelligence of the fans. Right. I mean, you can get really stupid with some things.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, you can if you got a gimmick that's just kind of out there, a little different. That's all cool, but you have to be careful with it. If you go too far, then you lose them.
Like what was it, the invisible choke slams? And
yeah, lots of things. You know, I mean, I'm thinking guys, you know, like Kamala. Yeah. You know, that was a goofy gimmick if you think about it.
But he made it work so well.
A headhunter from Uganda or wherever the heck, you know, and you know, but he lived it. You know, he made it work. He made people believe it. So that's the key to it. If you got a gimmick like that that's not in the ordinary, you know, not typical, then what you have to do is you have to, at least in the ring, you got to live it.
Yeah.
You got to keep it serious, you know, and take it to that point to where it might be a little extreme, because wrestling, you always have that area that you can exaggerate things, which is fun sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you take it too far, then it gets silly.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go there.
Yeah.
You know, because if you do, then you just lose them.
Yeah.
But if you can keep it in that realm there, and you can really get them to care about it, you know, or like it or hate it, whichever it is.
Yeah.
Then you got something that you can work with, because sometimes those gimmicks are fun.
Yeah, and I mean, we just talked about them, but I mean, look at the Undertaker.
Yeah.
If you explain, you know, if you separate Mark Calloway from the Undertaker, and you simply just explain the gimmick of the Undertaker, I would look you dead in the eyes and I would go, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. You mean a guy has risen from the dead and he walks down with an urn
multiple times,
and we're supposed to believe that he's been risen from the dead.
But he made people believe
but
it.
he did it so well.
Yeah, I was actually with Percy. I call him Percy. And, whatever the name was, pallbearer.
Yes, there it is.
That he used there. I was actually with Percy the day he got the call.
Oh wow!
To come
Okay.
in.
Yeah.
I had just gotten in from Japan, and I did a house show that I think it was a world-class house show with I think Chris Adams had probably promoted it or something. Steve Austin was on the show, and I don't know who all, but anyway, he was there that night. Percy was there that night, and I talked to him a little bit, and he just telling us about it, and I'm going like, man, that sounds really out there. But you know, good luck with it.
Yeah, all the luck to you, man.
Good luck with it. You know,
look where it
I was
ended up.
happy for him,
Yeah.
you know, because I knew it was going to be a big deal for him.
Yeah.
You know, and good God. Yeah, but you're right. You take something that's that, if you think about it logically, it's that ridiculous, and make people believe it, you really done something.
Yeah.
And Mark not only made them believe it, but he made them believe it for 20-something, 30 years.
And then it even extended. I mean, look at Kane. You know, Kane was Undertaker's deceased brother that caught up in a fire. And man, I remember, I mean, I think up until I was like 14, 15 years old, I really thought they were brothers. And when I was told that they weren't brothers, I was devastated.
You're heartbroken.
Yeah, but they protected it so well, and it wasn't cheesy in the way that they did it.
I met Glenn in Germany. And the first time I ever met him, and he was an impressive guy, smart guy. He liked Mark a lot. He was very smart. And he went through his progressions of different things that didn't work.
Isaac
you know, and I was actually with him. Well, I'm with all these people. I was with Mark in Memphis. With Glenn in Memphis when he was preparing to be Kane.
Oh wow! Okay.
So he was working under a hood as I can't remember, Doomsday, I think is what we call him.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and I was helping book with the Dutch Mantel, putting TV shows together.
Okay.
And so he was there doing all that, getting ready to go up there, and which is kind of a similar gimmick, you know, just took it at another level.
Yeah.
But Mark's Glenn, keep getting mixed up. Glenn was just a super guy, and super smart, like Mark was. And those are the kind of guys that can take something like that and maintain the level there that you need to get something like that over without making people just poo-poo all over.
Exactly. And like when you would see Undertaker out in public, he was dressed in all black. You know, he wasn't walking around 24/7 as the Undertaker.
No, well, you didn't see him going around glad handing people.
Yeah, you didn't see him walking around with the urn 24/7, you know, but he did it just enough to when you saw him, like, oh man, that dude is really freaky.
Yeah. But to answer your question, those things can be tricky, but if you do them right, they can really get over too.
I want to apologize to you for completely changing my gimmick 180 when I came back. From just this Amazonian-like woman to a psych ward patient.
That's okay. No, actually, it can be fun. It really can. It's just, like I said, you just have to make sure you keep it in that zone.
That was a big thing that I was worried about. I was worried about is this going to be believable? And so I sat myself down when I was first coming up with this character change, and I said, well, too bad, woman, you got to make it believable. And I did.
Well, and that's key to it. And, you know, if you can make people put aside their prejudices about wrestling long enough to kind of buy into something,
Yeah.
you know, then you really accomplish something. And that's really what we try to do, you know. And we're sitting there talking openly about a lot of things, but the truth is that most people understand that wrestling is what it is, and it is an art form. Mm-hmm. I don't care what anybody says; it's an art form.
No, it is. It absolutely is an art form.
Yeah, and if my thing is that I've been through the whole thing with the territory days and all that, where the kayfabe thing was such an important deal. You know, and of course we know how things are now with the social media and everything, and kind of opening up things and all that. And people say, well, it doesn't matter because everybody. And it does matter, because if you take yourself seriously when you're doing it, if you go in that ring and you take yourself seriously, then people can forget that. I can do that. I know everything there is to know about this business as far as how the things work. And I can sit and watch a match or watch an angle, and if they do it the way it's supposed to be done and take themselves seriously, I can enjoy it.
Right.
You know, as a fan. And if I can do that, I know anybody else can. You know, that's something that I try to get to, and I try to make guys understand, you know, take it seriously. When you're in there, you can have the craziest gimmick in the world, but if you take it seriously, it'll work.
And, you know, a lot of, you know, the people who come to the shows, you know, of course, we have our diehard wrestling fans.
Sure.
But you do also have, you know, especially at a lot of these independent shows, a lot of times these are these people's very first experience with live professional wrestling. They're already going into it knowing, you know, they're thinking, oh,
they think they know everything.
This is fake.
Yeah.
This is fake. You know, this is fake. If you can get that fan to go, ooh.
Right.
It's always amazed me that I've heard people talk, you know, they kind of poo-poo wrestling, you know, that's a bunch of junk, you know, that kind of stuff. And then they go to a live show, and if it's really a good live show, they come away going, I love this.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Because it's a whole different ballgame watching it live than it is watching it on TV.
It really is.
It really is.
Yeah, and I've seen that happen so many times, you know, and it's always convinced me that if you can ever get them in there, you know, and if you take it seriously and do it right, they'll come back.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like that Field of Dreams, you know, if you build it, they'll come.
Yep, exactly. And then like even my girlfriend now, Savannah, you know, she's amazing. She's awesome. She's a huge MMA fan, UFC fan. So, you know, when she found out I was a professional wrestler, at first she thought amateur wrestling. So she was like, oh, you know, that's cool. Well, then she found my Instagram and was like, oh. And she's admitted, she's like, you know, I openly bash, you know, WWE professional wrestling because she, you know, she's such a huge MMA fan. That happens. Well, she came to one live show and sat front row and watched, and you know, first thing I got from my phone, you know, first text I got when I got back is, oh my God, are you okay?
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm good. I'm fine. Like, hey, come around back. I'll meet you. You know,
because people get too wrapped up in the fact of the nasty 4-letter word fake. Like, it's entertainment. I mean, I was looking on my phone for this quote from Chris Jericho years ago, and it's long, but it rings true. Fake is not a word I like to use because there's nothing fake about what I do. It's a show. It's a predetermined outcome we're putting on a television drama, action, comedy, whatever you want to call it. But it's not fake. Fake would be if I just go out to take a body slam and my stuntman did it. Fake would be if I was going to take a chair shot to the head and then the chair was made of rubber. I'll tell the world that it's a show, but I hate the word fake. It's such an unfair term. So
that's a very fair statement and very true. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it too. You know, I've heard people say that 4-letter word. You know, and I say no, it's not fake. It may be manipulated, but it's not fake.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been in the ring with real wrestlers. I mean, I'm talking about real professionals, and I know you guys are, but I'm just saying this as a general thing.
Yeah.
Then you know the difference.
Yeah. Right.
You know, there's a big difference. You know, I see these guys a lot of times in some of the indies and some of the what I call backyard level.
Yeah.
indies, and if you want to call that fake, go ahead.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you're not going to offend me.
This high quality TSW, no, don't you dare.
Because it's pretty fakey. Yeah.
And I think of it, those guys aren't wrestlers. They're play wrestling.
That's exactly
they're playing
right.
a
That's exactly
wrestler,
what they're doing,
but they're not a wrestler.
Because it's more than just moves. It's like James said, you have to put a character over. It's, to me anyway, it's character first, moves second.
It's about making people care.
Yeah.
It's about an emotional connection.
Right.
If you make fans care about what you're doing or care about that character, then you're a professional.
Yeah.
And that's what the key is. That's the whole key to everything. That's the whole key to being a successful wrestler. It's the whole key to booking and putting together shows.
Yeah.
And I call them shows. I don't even like calling them shows. They're events. But or TV tapings or whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But it that's the whole key to it is trying to make that connection.
Yeah.
If you can do that, then you're a professional.
Yeah.
If you're playing wrestler, you might as well just have a pillow in there and do that on your bed, which is what a lot of that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, my brother and I, he's 5 years younger than me.
Teddy bear.
Yeah,
I beat that teddy bear.
We play wrestled a lot when we were younger on our trampoline, and but that's there's difference between pros.
My grandson's 2 years old, and he can do a crossbody on a pillow right now.
Yep, exactly.
But that's playing wrestling. But there's a big difference.
And anytime somebody likes to use or tries to use that, that four-letter F word that none of us like, the very first thing I come at them with is, okay, what's your favorite movie?
Right.
Yeah.
And they'll say, Spider-Man. Well, did you know Peter Parker is not real? Did you know Did you know there is no Uncle Ben?
Did you know Mission Impossible didn't actually happen?
That's exactly the analogy I use when I'm talking to people.
You're emotionally invested.
Yeah. You know that's not real, but yet, and those people aren't really those people. But yet you buy into it. And that's, I remember one time I was coming back from the Sportatorium and stopped at a Whataburger in Kaufman.
Okay. I think I know the exact Whataburger you're talking about.
Yeah, with John Layfield, JBL. And we were sitting there eating hamburgers, and all these teenage boys were in there. And this was back when we were on TV all the time. So they recognized us. And they come over and they start talking to us, blah, 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 blah. And of course, one of the guys had to bring that word up. John said, yeah, you're right, it is. And they spent the next 30 minutes trying to convince us it wasn't. It might be this, but I see this and I know that was real, and I'm like, oh my God, what'd you do, John?
Yeah. You're right.
It happens every time. Happens every time. So crazy. People just sit back and enjoy it.
Right. Like just watch it.
Yeah, and appreciate it. Yes. Yeah, for what it is, and see if you can do it. If you can't do it, then you'll understand.
Yeah, if you can do it better than me,
I've seen it
whatever you want.
I've seen it happen so many times. We would have every once in a while we'd have some guy come in and for some kind of promotional thing, and they think I just want to wrestle. I want to be in the ring and see what.
Right.
That could be the best athlete in the world, a marathon runner or whatever. 2 minutes, they're blown up.
Yep.
It's just a fact, because wrestling is a whole different way of conditioning.
Oh yeah, anyone can work out and exercise, but it takes a wrestler to work out, exercise, talk your trash, talk to the crowd.
And wrestling has this thing where there's this leaning on people, and that's a whole different thing that you have to put up with in wrestling. The pressure and that takes a lot out of you. I remember in Japan one time, Bobby Duncombe Jr., who played football at University of Texas, and he was a defensive end, and he chasing quarterbacks. And his dad was a great wrestler, and Bobby first got into business, and that's kind of his mindset is he's just going to go full blast. And I kept telling him, I told Bobby, you're not chasing quarterback anymore. You better, you got to slow it down, and of course, guys that get in the ring with him, you just try to bludgeon them. Well, I took him to Japan, and Sakurada Kendo Nagasaki. After about two or three nights on the road, and Bobby just killing people, he said, "I'll book him with me." So we put him in the ring with Kendo, and about 10 minutes into the match, Bobby was sucking air, because Kendo was just leaning on him, just leaning on him. Bobby, he'd blown up, and that's what Kendo. He'd turn around and look at me, and say, "Bobby blow up." Yeah, he slowed down considerably after that. Yeah.
But I mean, if you come from an athletic background, football, all we were taught is quick feet, driver feet, go. So, as an athlete, to turn that part of your brain off and go, okay, I actually need to slow down.
And Bobby's probably the problem to his credit is he was still playing arena football at the time. So he was still playing football, and he had that mindset.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a tough mindset to turn off.
Yeah, he's a great athlete, but boy, wrestling is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. And I think just about everybody gets those happy feet.
Yeah.
Everybody has happy feet, and you got to learn to slow it down.
Yep. We got a long ways away from relationships, didn't we?
See, that's what I'm talking about. We'll talk about one thing, and then we'll just kind of veer off into another topic.
Go off.
It's fine.
I understand how that goes.
Well, guess what? That wasn't completely veered off, because it's our relationship with ourselves and our physical prowess and how we need to take care of our bodies.
Sometimes the relationship with yourself is the biggest problem.
That's the hardest thing that people got. Man, I could go into a whole psychological sociology debate about that, but that is one thing I try to tell my students the most out of anything that I teach them, is that you cannot be so linear to have one identity with this wrestling stuff, because if you don't have this tomorrow, what are you gonna do? Like, you can't just be 100% about wrestling. You can have 100% passion about wrestling, but what happens if you can't wrestle tomorrow? What happens if you sign a contract and then 2 days later, I'm not going to say something bad happens, but what if you can't? What are you going to do then? Do you love the business so much that you'll stay in it as a referee, a commentator, a backstage crew, or are you going to go home and be depressed?
Yeah, and one of the best pieces of advice I received was from a buddy of mine. He's a worker as well. I know him from the Christian Wrestling Federation, Johnny Harris. I'm pretty sure you know Johnny. It was, I was going through some of those relationship issues with my ex that I touched on previously, and he told me, he was like, Chase, when you get home, you're Chase. Bam Bam, the second you walk through that door at home, Bam Bam does not exist in that household. And, I had to, because I was obsessive with wrestling. If I wasn't doing it, I was watching it. If I wasn't watching it, I was talking about it. And he was like, dude, when you get home, she doesn't love Bam Bam.
Yeah.
She loves Chase. So when you get home, drop the wrestling and leave it at the front door and pick it up on your way out tomorrow. Yeah. And I was like, okay, but it still crashed and burned anyways. But that was some of the best advice that I'd ever been given.
That's one of the things when I was home, I just didn't talk about it. My friends that didn't watch wrestling didn't even know. And I umpired some softball in Tyler, at home. And a lot of those people had no idea, because they were younger and didn't watch, and I hadn't been on TV in a long time. And finally the rumor got out, and then of course the movie came out. And and it's like,
wait, what?
Yeah. But it didn't come from me. It just, when I'm home, I was just home.
Yeah, just want to be home. And again, I've never dated anyone in the business because,
me either.
Man, as much as I love professional wrestling and as obsessed as I am, damn, sometimes it's nice to talk about something that's not professional wrestling.
Yeah. Man, say less. One of my last relationship before the one I'm in now, all he loved to do was just talk about himself wrestling. Because after shows, I don't know about y'all, but I don't like thinking about wrestling. I like decompressing and going on with the rest of my life. I'll watch my match back for critiques, and that's it. I don't want to do anything else. But to go home and then have to constantly keep the wrestling brain on and talk about, like, oh, what'd you think of this? What'd you think of that? Like, and when someone's just talking about themselves on and on and on, it's just, it gets so draining. So yeah, you can say like dating another wrestler, that would be exhausting. It depends on the person, because the partner I'm with now, if I just tell him, hey, I'm kind of burnt out right now, I don't want to like watch wrestling, he'll be like, okay. And then we'll watch something else. And we don't really talk about it that much, because he knows that I like to decompress. And he's also just one of those people that once he leaves the ring, outside of training and the shows, he just, he'll watch it. He loves it, but he's not obsessed with it.
When I leave here tomorrow night, I'll either turn on a podcast or I'll listen to music on the way home and put it all out of my head.
Right.
Unless something happened that I needed to think about, which I hope doesn't.
Yeah.
But and I don't think about it again until probably Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then it's...
Yeah. And
I can't sleep.
Yeah, and I mean, 90% of the time when I'm by myself, whether I'm driving, I'm either cutting a promo in my head, I'm thinking about something wrestling related. So, when I am with her, when I am with Savannah, like, for us to have common ground that's not wrestling, oh, dude, it's so great. It's so great. And she likes it just enough that if I do want to turn it on, she'll take one for the team and watch it with me.
My wife went through, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 events after we first got together. And this was back after I'd kind of slowed down on the road considerably. And she saw it, and that's all she needed to see. Yeah. She's not the least bit interested now, but I'll say this for her. She never, I'm sure there's times when she wishes I wasn't gone, or that I'd do something here instead of having to go to there, but she doesn't give me, she understands.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Even though it's not really my only livelihood now, as it used to be, she understands it. It's still my passion, still what I do, and it's important to me. Yeah. So I don't get any grief over it, and that's if I did, then it'd be a problem.
Yeah, it would be a problem because you when you have a partner, when you have a spouse, if they're not supporting you, especially when it comes to your passions, that's the downfall. That's what makes stories like Jazz and Rodney so great. Like, they understand because they have this shared passion. They understand. That's
unique.
Very.
And it's also unique that both of them were successful. Both of them had, had their I guess their glory, In all honesty, Jazz probably has had more accolades than Rodney has.
And that's another thing to be careful about is any jealousy.
Yeah, which is unusual for one thing. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't, he's always been her biggest supporter.
Yeah, and that's just how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. But they're both supremely talented too. Yeah. That's another thing. Mm-hmm. You don't have one that's pretty good and the other one's excellent. And
you don't have one getting booked because of the other.
Yeah, No, you got two people who are really elite wrestlers and talents and it's just worked for them, and they're good people, and that makes all the difference in the world. Yeah. You got to have that basic goodness in you, I think, but that's an unusual situation for that to happen.
Yeah, for sure. So if anyone's listening and they're concerned about having that special someone in their life and their wrestlers, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. Don't stress out over it. And if you're one of my students listening, I'm still going to tell you to be single because y'all way too young to be worrying about this right now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. If you try to avoid it if you can.
Yes.
Until you get to a point to where you're really established or something, because you've really got to dedicate yourself to this if you're going to be good at it.
Have to be selfish.
And if you're going to be successful, you have to be a little bit selfish, and you have to just. It's such a hard thing to master. It really is. You can't just do this once a day or once a week and think that you're going to get there. Yeah, you're not. It's not going to happen. This has got to be something that you really dedicate yourself to and learn everything that you can learn, everything you're capable of. Mm-hmm. And some people are more capable than others, more athletic than others, or have different personalities, whatever. Not say better, but different. Yeah. And different aspects of the business they might be outstanding in, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. But you've got to take it all the way to the end with whatever that ability you have. Yeah. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. No, you're not going to get there. You might work a little locally or something like that, make a $25 call, deal or something here and there, but you're not going to be successful unless you just go all the way with it.
No,
Yeah,
and you have to push yourself from that realm of comfortability, because outside of the wrestling, you also have to take care of your body. You have to take care of your finances, because wrestling's very expensive. If you can't drive, maybe you have to buy a plane ticket. You have to take it on the chin of, okay, he's not paying for my flight, just pay for my fee. And if you like it, I'll come back out. We can work something out. You have to be well-rounded in all those aspects. It's, what is it they always say? You got to have the talk, the talent, and the look. You got to have that. And a lot of people tend to forget that, because while it is great that there's more variety in body shapes and stuff, at the end of the day, you still have to look a certain way.
Well, if you have all those things that you're talking about and don't have the dedication along with it, then you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
I don't care how good you are.
You're going to burn out.
I've seen some people who were supremely talented and had great look and had great personalities. Never made it.
Nope.
Never made it because they didn't dedicate themselves to that, and and you got to be lucky too sometimes.
Yeah.
You just have to, you have to be in the right place at the right time, impress the right person. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that involved too. But if you're really, really good and really, really dedicated, most likely you're going to get lucky somewhere.
Well, and the reason why you're in the right place at the right time is because you've done all the right things to get you to that point.
Exactly.
It's all a snowball. It didn't you didn't just by chance luck upon.
And you never know when you're impressing somebody.
Yeah. Right. You've made those relationships. You've opened those doors for yourself.
Yeah, and I'm walking evidence of it. The deal that I got to go to Japan that made my career really, and that was just simply because Kendo, I didn't even know he liked me. We talked and hung around a little bit and all that kind of thing, but when the opportunity came up to book somebody over there, that turned into a regular deal for me, and changed everything for me. It was because he liked me.
Yeah.
Really. It wasn't,
and he liked you for you as the human being.
I know I was pretty good.
Yeah,
but he wouldn't have booked me over there for one. But it wasn't. I could have been really good, and if he didn't like me, he wasn't going to book me.
Exactly.
Right. But I had that relationship with him, and I didn't even know it really. Mm-hmm.
Because you're so humble. You're just so happy to be there.
Yeah, I was happy to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they can tell. They can tell when you're being genuine and when you're being fake.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the whole thing. You've got to be ready for it when it happens.
Yeah.
Love it. Oh, and once again, hour and a half just flies by like that.
Yep.
Dang.
Aren't we talented?
Man. It's beautiful. Because I know someone's coming in at 6, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess we can wrap it up here. James, thank you for joining us. I know you weren't expecting to be on here tonight. We weren't expecting you either, but hey, that's wrestling. Yeah.
It's always a pleasure. Love you guys, and it's fun working with people you like.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep, and we'll be back either next week or the following week. I won't drop what topic we're gonna get, mostly because I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And we'll be back
come
in
on,
here.
tease them a little bit.
I don't know.
It's no, so we genuinely don't know yet.
I gotta figure it out.
I'm gonna call it in the ring.
Exactly, that's what we do here.
There we go.
But thanks everyone for watching, listening. Again, Ashley Biggins, got Chase Malone here after the 3 count.
Peace.